Hello everyone, it's Scott and welcome back to another episode of Feed the Beast Infinity Valve Skyblock Expert Mode. Well, I ended up building an enclosure around the Petal Apothecary and moved it up to the ME system level. And so same as the Crystal Growth Accelerator, I have an open chest that is programmed to drop things that are fed to it from the ME interface here. So I pre-populated one formula, which is the Daybloom. And what that does is this is the beginning flower to kind of get started on Botania. And so what it does is it during the day it'll slowly, extremely slowly generate mana and pump it out into a mana pool. And the way that we get the mana pool is by taking some of this living rock that I've surrounded a pure daisy with just normal stone, smooth stone, and after a clock minute that'll convert. And so what I'd like to do is set up the starter. Let's get rid of this. Let's set up the starter mana pool with a U shape like this for the mana pool, and let's just plop it over here in the animal area where we get direct sunlight on for this mana pool. So I'm not going to be using this long, and by itself you can see a little bit of sparkles streaming towards the mana pool. But what I'd really like to do is get myself a Wand of the Forest, and so that's essentially the tool of Botania. So let's Wand of the Forest. What kind of... Okay, so I have one mystical petal left. I need 3 livingwood planks, which I need full livingwood to do. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And so let's grab one of those. So where's my petals? Let's take one of the orange and blue that were left over from making the Daybloom. And there we go, Wand of the Forest. Okay, and so the Wand of the Forest has 2 modes. If I shift right click, you can see a function mode and a bind mode. The bind mode is what kind of allows us to reassign flowers. So if I right click on the, or shift right click on the Daybloom and right click to link it to the mana pool. Alright, the next thing we need to make with Botania is the mana spreader, and that's just a gold and 1 piece of any petal. So let's go back in the flower pouch and grab another, what do I have the most of? Let's make a purple flower and break it into petals. Great. And with the mana spreader, there we go. Okay, livingwood I am short because I have livingwood planks. Alright, so let's grab some more oak and head downstairs. Alright, there's the pure daisy doing its work, converting the oak into this living wood. So let me collect up the pieces, and yep, I'm just making a total mess out of everything here. So luckily the magnet is just sweeping everything up for me. There we go. And let's head back upstairs and finish that crafting recipe. And that means loading this up with living wood. And bam, 1 mana spreader. So let's head over to the mana pool. So we're going to place the mana spreader directly above the mana pool. Can we? Now let's press. We place it off this side. There's just too many animals around. Okay, get the heck out of the way, horse. There we go. Okay, so the Daybloom will link to the mana spreader. There we go. It's finally linked. Okay, Daybloom has a check. And so very shortly we should start seeing some mana in the mana pool, but I think I'll need to build at least a couple more. Let's do about 6 or so of the Dayblooms. And yep, so those are pretty simple. 2 yellow, 1 light blue, and 1 orange out of the flower pouch. So let's, let me just craft those up quick. Alright, we're going to try this again. So let's bring up the Daybloom. So I've made 3 already, and I had to make some modifications to the dropper system. So formula works, I can kick that off. If I come over here, we can see that I move the interface 1 block over to the left and directly hooked it up to the open crate. So I also had to make sure that I changed this setting, the blocking mode. Do not push crafting items if inventory contains items. So that means that we're only going to send out 1 item at a time. And I see here that I'm not collecting my iron buckets. So let me make sure that I add that to the white list of the item filter, so that way empty buckets are collected. There we go, and then those should suck out and put everything into the chest. And the way that this transfer node works, I didn't cover it last time. So world interaction upgrades, when they're put into a transfer node, and that node is not connected to a infinite water source or a cobble from a cobble gem, turns it into a vacuum hopper. So by putting 4, I read that it's a logarithmic scale, so for every power of 10 or maybe 2, it will expand 1 level out. Well, this is enough world interaction upgrades that it's able to reach out in a cone to pull the items away from the Petal Apothecary. So at this point I should have all of my Dayblooms right here. If I go back to stored and craftable, so I have 6 Dayblooms, which I can then place back over here in order to get a little tiny bit of mana to get this going. There we go. Okay. And with that, the other thing I have to be careful about, and I'm pretty sure that this mod pack has it too, these Dayblooms are only going to last a day or 2 in game time, and then they're going to turn into little shriveled shrubs. So I want to make sure I get as much starter mana out of the mana pool as I can, so that way I can get going with advanced crafting. So what I'd like to do with the Pure Daisy is I'd like to set up, as soon as I have a chance, I want to set up a push and pull system centered around the ME formation and annihilation planes, as well as the Hourglass. So this is something I've used in other mods that's really compact timer, but it is going to require mana glass and mana steel, which is going to require me dumping a piece of, well, in this case, steel into the mana pool in order to get that recipe out. So let me get myself some steel while I'm in the area. And yep, I still have a fair chunk, 600. Let's grab a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So let's grab some glass. And for that block, I was going to need 2 mana glass. Okay, what are you doing, horse? What I ended up doing was making a reusable safari net, so that way I can catch these animals that are acting crazy and kind of dump them back in the middle of the grassy area. I'm not sure how he managed to bump himself over the side, but let's take now 2 of our glass, 1, 2, and see if we can dump in, if we have enough mana to make a mana steel. Yep, there we go. Great. So with that, let's head back here and build ourselves the Hourglass. So here we go, Hourglass, and put the mana steel and the mana glass in this inventory. Fetch the gold and the redstone. Bam, hovering Hourglass. Great. So let me also grab up while I'm here some pistons. Whoops. Piston. And let's see, I also should grab some redstone. Great. Alright, the next thing I want to make are the ME system annihilation plane and formation plane. So this is the applied energistics answer to a block placer and a block remover. So the formula itself is not that difficult, though I do want to use some of the regular Fluix crystals instead of the other kinds of crystals. So let's wait for that to roll in. Bam, there we go. Okay, so bink, bink, bink. Let's grab 1 formation plane and then 1 of the annihilation planes. And so that's the same thing with, in this case, an annihilation core. So let's grab 1 of those and make sure I have enough glass cable. And then what I'd like to do is set up, grab myself a little bit of oak, and let's head downstairs and pick up our daisy here. And then head downstairs once more. And so I started making a new Botania area underground here that's going to hold my Endoflames. And so that should, in theory, work out. I see what I did. Okay, so let me grab a little bit of dirt here. And that should be, yep, usable dirt. So I don't think it actually require, well, the pure daisy is going to require dirt, but the other placers are not. So let's just put this down. Doot doot doot. And let's just extend this a little bit more here, and then I'll wire the whole thing up to the ME system. So, okay, the ME system is right around the corner over here. So I think what I want to do is run, okay, from this dense cable. Let's run it down and around. There we go. So I'll just run this across the ceiling and fall fall down. Which reminds me, I should probably check the health of the jetpack before I get too far here. But in any case, there. Okay, this is slowly coming together. I think I should have just enough cable, hopefully, to work my way. Let's see. 1, 2. Good enough. All right, connected. So at this point, I should have enough that I can make a annihilation plane. And what that'll do is that any block that is placed that is adjacent to the annihilation plane is consumed and sucked back into the ME system. And that's going to also cover anything that's pushed into the system. So what I'd like to do is set up the pure daisy like such, where I have the setting here such that it's going to convert the any wood or stone and then get pushed back into the annihilation plane. So let's do that and that and that, and then we will set up the piston. So let's rotate this around. Okay. Okay. I think I placed this just a little too close to the drop area. So let me quick fix that. All right, that's done. So that's moved over a block. So this isn't active anymore. And what I'd like to do then is to snake the flux cable around the side here. And I guess I could put it down the middle too, now that I think of it. So let's collect it by tapping that with the wrench. Bink, bink. And there we go. We'll just move that over one. And let's take the formation plane here and place it up against that block. So what I'd like to do is set up that the formation plane is going to load in oak. So it'll be placed as a block as soon as it sees an open setting. So what I can do next then is string up some of the redstone here, and let's see if I can get this to activate. So let's place the hovering hourglass down here, and then I need some sand. Okay, I'm back, and what I'd like to do is set this up with 61 pieces of sand. So each piece is going to count as 1 second delay in the hourglass activation. So let's click that in and let it work its way down. Alright, coming up on the end. So when this runs out, yep, it's going to do a push. And at this point, okay, the formation plane is not going to place the block. Ah, I remember now. The issue has to do with the, it's only going to place a block when the block enters the ME network. So as I add oak blocks here, there we go, that was the problem. So I had to increase the priority. So when new blocks enter the system, they're going to identify that there's an opening here with this formation plane. And then that's going to do the block placing out here in the dirt. So that's not quite what I wanted. So unfortunately, yeah, that's I'm going to need to find either an autonomous activator as a block placer or the actual MFR block placer. So let me do a little research, and then get back on that. Alright, I think I found an even better block placer than the MFR one that I used in Agrarian Skies, and that's the Open Blocks block placer. So it's much cheaper recipe here, and it does not require any redstone for flux at all. So it will require a redstone pulse to place the blocks, which is good because that's exactly what I need. But I am going to have to restructure then to move this a little bit out of the way. So let's get rid of that. Let's place the block placer, well, not there, but so it's facing in this direction. So once I have items in the block placer, and it should also get hit by this by the redstone pulse. Oh, I think I might actually have to put a delay then on the feed that's coming, because what's going to happen is the pulse is going to go out here. Yep, and it's going to get blocked by the well, actually no. That actually looked like it worked, because that was empty before the block placer placed its block. So let's just watch it one more cycle. Yep, there we go. Okay, so it actually did work. So the block that was here that got converted into the Livingwood got eaten by the annihilation plane. The block placer placed the wood, which then got pushed over by the piston here. So the piston must activate a little tiny bit later than the than this block placer. So all I have to do is figure out how to wire up another one that's facing right, and yep, then that should be all I need to do. Alright, there's one more change I want to demo here. So I ended up putting in a matching side here. I put in the vanilla redstone repeater, which in a delay mode will delay a couple ticks before it activates the piston. So what I'm going to do is set up a interface node right here. And what I'm going to do is put in one piece of oak up here in the config section and one piece of stone. And what you see is that it's pulling items out here underneath that config area, and that's going to make this interface now act like a inventory source. So if I were to take some item ducts and now hook them up to the ME interface in a way that I can take the oak and whitelist it. And if I were to then turn this on, what I'll see here is that the servo should begin pumping oak into the block placer. Yep, there we go. So it's incrementing. So it's going to start pulling out items one at a time, and should, because it's the time scales are so different, it's one exiting per minute and then one entering every 4 seconds. This will eventually fill up here in a way that should be fine. So let me do the same for the other side. And so I don't have a. What I could also do is set up a crafting card on this interface. So that way, if it ever finds that it can't pump out stone, it will create it on the fly. And that's kind of a useful thing to put up here in this slot in the interface. Let me just check here. Yep, so it's found the stone, and so at this point I have to be careful because I did not make another annihilation plane. So let me get right on that. All right, here's another annihilation plane. So let's grab one of those. And like I said, the crafting card is kind of a unique thing. That's going to take another basic card. So let's whip up one of those and then create a exporting capability here with the card. So let's head back down and actually let's make a point right here to take all of the stone. Okay, it looks like it's already done that. All the stone is now out of the interface. So if I look at stored items, I don't see any stone. So if I were to go down to the Botania area and take a look over here, first thing I'm going to do is plug in my annihilation plane, wait for that to energize. There we go. So when this converts to a living rock, it will then get pumped into the annihilation plane and back to the ME system. Over here on this side, we can see that if I were to take the stone out, since there is no stone in the ME system, this is blank. So what I can do is set up this crafting card, which will then tell the ME system that, hey, I need to get an item, and it'll send that formula to the redstone furnace, which will build the block. And then it's immediately pumped out through the servo into the block placer, where it's now filling up this this placer. So that's pretty cool because now I have an infinite supply. Oh, great, good, that worked. I'm going to have an infinite supply of material to basically craft the Botania inputs. Alright, I just finished wiring up another fluid transposer. So what I'm going to do is set it up like this, where I'm going to route the output of the fluid transposer back into the ME interface, which will then dump the items back into the ME system itself. So infinite water source from above is filling up the water. So at this point, all I have to do is feed it an empty bucket, and it should flow through and get sucked out the bottom. So let's set up the formula for this. And think so one empty bucket becomes one filled bucket. And then let's try this out. So at this point, I have 2 buckets, and what I'm going to do is throw a bucket in the inventory and tell it to make me 1 water bucket, and hopefully that'll pop in very shortly. There we go. Okay, so with that, I now have the water source for the Botania flowers automated. I have the seeds automated. So what I'd like to work on next is the Endoflame flower. And so this guy is going to need 2 mystical brown petals, mystical red petal, light gray, and this mana powder. Mana powder says gunpowder, and last time I checked, I have 1,700 of them. So let's head down to the mana pool here. Yep, here we go. All my flowers are now dying. Yikes. Okay, so fortunately I have a little bit of mana, a very emphasis on little. So let's throw 4 of these guys in for 4 mana powders. And at this point, let's head back up. And then I'm going to have to take my flower pouch and find those specific flowers again. So that was the brown, the light gray, and the red. So red, light gray, and brown. There we go. Okay, feed all that into the ME system. And what I'd like to do at this point is set up the formula. So 1 water bucket, the petals, let's do 2 brown, 1 red, and the last one was the, where is it? The 1 gray right here. So load in those 4. We're going to need that, that mana powder. And then lastly, we're going to need the pumpkin seed in the very last slot here. So, yep, I have that same problem again. So let's dump out, actually, let's grab a hopper here. And then I'm going to have to get all those items in my inventory so I can manually dump them into the apothecary for the first time to at least kickstart the automation process. So let's grab that, and the mana powder. Great. So let's head back over here. There we go. So let's turn off the magnet, and 1 bucket, 1 mana powder, 2, 1, and 1, followed by the seed. And there we go. There's our Endoflame flower. So that's not, it's not going to get picked up right now because of the whitelisting of the block. So let's grab it with our inventory right here, Endoflame, and add it as an approved flower. Awesome. So back over here to the formula area, take the Endoflame as the output, and done. If I've done this right, I should be able to come back over here and craft another one. And that formula is going to take that empty bucket, fill it, throw it in the inventory, suck it out. Then it's going to drop in all the individual flowers, or individual petals. Okay, they're still dropping. There we go, Endoflame, done. Alright, so I've automated the Endoflame recipe. At this point, what I'll need to do is come up with a better source of flowers. And I have a idea that I'm going to rip from my last 2 solutions in both regrowth and agrarian skies. Alright, I'm back, and here is the Endoflame area, my mana pools, the mana spreader, and the open crate. So what's going to happen is that the coal is going to drop down and get eaten by the Endoflames, and the Endoflames are linked to the mana spreader such that it's going to transfer the mana from the flowers out into this mana pool. When there's coal on this pressure plate, that's going to activate a redstone signal, which is going to be bounced up through this redstone torch, which is going to activate this upper path, which is essentially going to pause the hopper. Now, the hopper would normally just drop and drop and drop into the open crate, which is going to drop down. But as long as it has the redstone pulse, the redstone signal, it's going to pause. And so, since the Endoflames need a little bit of a cooldown period before they can absorb more coal again, this is a self-regulating system now that will only consume as much coal as it needs when the flowers are ready to consume it. So what I'm going to do is hook this up here. Let's move it over one. Beep. And that's going to hook into the ME system. I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, where I'm going to just place a bit of coal up here in the top, which is then hopefully, well, I guess it's only going to be sucked out by the item hopper when it's not under the redstone pulse. So actually, yeah, I'll probably want to then route up just a little bit of item ducting here, just to be on the safe side. So let me do that quick. All I have to do is grab one servo and then head back down. If I did this right, then the servo should always extract. So let's do that. Let's whitelist coal just for safety's sake. So that's going to start to pull out coal from the ME system and keep this hopper topped off. So let's just manually add the rest of this. And there we go. So now this is a self-regulating system that's going to just keep dropping coal. So I'm going to add a couple more Endoflames to the mix here. And yeah, so that's pretty good progress for today. I got some of the core basics of Botania up and running, and I'm ready to move forward with more advanced mana gathering. So if you could, please leave a comment or a like, and let me know how I'm doing. And if you have any suggestions on how I can move forward with magic, please send them my way in the comment section down below. And I will see you next time in Feed the Beast Infinity Evolved Skyblock Expert Mode. Bye!